Hello and welcome to the Digital Lighthouse, where we get inspiration from tech leaders to help us navigate the exciting and ever-evolving world of digital transformation. I'm Zoe Cunningham. We believe that meaningful conversations can illuminate the path forward, helping us to harness the power of technology for innovation, scalability and sustainability. In this episode, I'm delighted to introduce Sean Riches. Sean is the founder and managing director at Erskine Nash Associates. He and his team have worked around the world with many organisations, including well-known tech consultancies, helping clients improve team and leadership effectiveness. Sean's varied career history includes financial services, international airport operations at both Heathrow and Gatwick, and in military logistics. Since moving into consultancy, he's worked as an associate for several consultancies in over 20 countries. He's worked with many well-known organisations, including Vodafone, Oracle, Microsoft and Tata. And then in 2007, he set up his own consultancy, which is Erskine Nash. In this episode, we'll be exploring what it takes to create, maintain and lead a high-performing team, from assessing a team's effectiveness to uncovering the secret to taking it from good to great. Sean will share with us his hard-won lessons and proven techniques that have helped hundreds of organisations to maximise team effectiveness. So hello, Sean, and welcome to the Digital Lighthouse.
Thank you very much for having me.
It seems that you have covered everything in your career. I think it's one of the most exciting career histories I've ever seen. Leadership, operations, learning and development and consultancy, and across a wide variety of organisations. So could you maybe start us off by sharing some details about your journey and then how you came to start Erskine Nash?
So I've always been interested in subjects like leadership effectiveness, team effectiveness, organisational health and organisational effectiveness. And my degree a long time ago, Zoe, was in applied psychology. So it was about, with an emphasis on organisational psychology, but it was applied psychology. So it was very sort of focused on pragmatic solutions and what actually works. And it was fascinating. It was an incredibly interesting degree to do. So it was things like, I don't know, I'll give you an example. The built environment. So if you design a terrace of houses, think about a lot of old Victorian towns, terrace houses. If you put a little front yard in front of those houses, you build community because people go out and, I don't know, clean their motorbike or do a bit of carpentry or something outside their front door. Whereas if it goes straight onto the street, people leave their door and walk away. So you've got that linger space, and that's how neighbours meet each other. And it happened to me two houses ago when we moved there. We were still building the house a bit, and I was doing a bit of really bad DIY out in the front garden, and neighbours were walking past, offering me work. In their houses, they thought I was a carpenter. And that's how I met so many of our neighbours. So it was about the application of psychology to real life. Mm-hmm. And that's how it all started. I then, as you say, had a fairly eclectic set of jobs. Whether you can call it a career or not, I don't know. But I ended up working in international airport operations, which is a fascinating set of organisations to work in. 24/7, 365 days a year. And having worked at Heathrow and Gatwick for about 12 years in a variety of different roles, I had one final role which started to knock on the door of technology. And I led a change transformation program, along with a lot of other people, by the way, putting new technology into aviation security. So when you go to the airport, and you check in and you go through security and your baggage goes through security, it's fair to say that the processes and the technology that you experience are very, very different from 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
Right.
And as a passenger now, particularly flying around the world for business, going on assignments, I can't help but look at what they do and how they're doing it. And it's almost like I'm still taking a big interest, but it's massively efficient, I assume much more effective than it was back in the day.
Right. Yeah, in all kinds of small ways, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And people sometimes complain about the queues. Let me assure you that the airport has
Yeah.
no interest in keeping you in a queue. Apart from wanting you to be safe and secure, I can assure you that airports want you to go through the process as quickly as possible so that you spend more time spending money in the shops and restaurants, in the lounge.
Yeah.
There is a commercial reason why airports don't want to muck you around, and they want it to be as efficient as possible. So I worked on a transformation program which combined process redesign, new technology, and getting people to engage with that and start using that stuff. And it was a fascinating assignment, but it was the last one I did in the world of airports before I decided to set my own business up.
And what was the driver then for you for setting up on your own? I guess what was your vision for what you were setting out to do?
Well, I would love to tell you that that's how it started. Actually, it was a kind of feeling some discomfort and going, I don't want to do any more of this. I want to do something else.
Mm,
And I had a conversation with an HR director at the time called Fiona, who was absolutely brilliant, and she did a bit of mentoring and coaching with me. And it's actually a tool that I've now developed and used with some of our clients. So maybe that would be of value. Imagine three circles, a Venn diagram, and one circle is what you like and are good at, and generally those two go together. I think we can agree that. One
mhm.
is what makes a difference, and one is what does the market want and will pay for.
Right.
And where those three circles overlap is where your career sweet spot is. So you're good at it and you enjoy it. It makes a difference, which customers kind of need, and but also we need purpose in our life and we need to feel that we're making a difference in the world. But unless it's a hobby, you've also got to make a living. So therefore, it's got to be something that the market wants and will pay for. And she introduced me to this model and did me a huge favor in helping me corral my thinking. And I decided, right, I want to set up a consultancy that helps people to take teams from wherever they are now to somewhere better. And we developed a business that does that in two ways. Sometimes we work with a whole team. So a week ago, we were working with two departments in a tech consultancy that need to collaborate well. And we got those two teams together in the room and we designed a workshop to help them with that. The other way that we work is yesterday, in fact, this week I was up in Leeds working with a group of leaders, again in a tech consultancy. And what we do is we equip them with the tools and techniques that we would use with their teams, but we train them to use it so they can go and achieve the magic secondhand. So it's either team development directly or it's leadership development, helping those leaders be better leaders of their own teams. And we've been doing it we're in our 19th trading year now.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, right? Is all of that, 19 years worth of expertise and obviously what you brought with you when you founded Erskine Nash.
Mm-hmm.
So we've all worked in teams that work, right? And then we've worked in teams that just don't, for a variety of reasons, right? So are you able to describe, I feel like sometimes it's hard to even pin down what we mean, but what are like the features of an effective team?
So there's some very well-known research that I'm going to lean on here rather than we've got some of our own stuff that maybe we can talk about later on in terms of actually how you transform a team from okay to brilliant. But in terms of defining what an effective high-performing team is, Google did a load of work on this called Project Aristotle a long time ago. And I believe, if I remember rightly, what they did was they looked at their own teams and they sort of said, well, who are the really good ones? Who are the okay ones? What's the difference between them? And I'm looking down at my notes here because I want to get this right.
Yeah.
Anyone can look this up, right? And they suggested that there were 5 factors. And the first one and the most important one is psychological safety, which is a phrase that gets bandied around. But basically it means that individuals in the team feel confident that if they have a new idea, if they have something sort of bit of a different creative idea, if they maybe disagree with the groupthink, that they can speak up without fear of punishment or ridicule and offer, that different insight. It doesn't always mean to say they'll get their way, but people need to feel that they are safe to perhaps even be slightly oppositional now and then, up to a certain point. So psychological safety apparently was the biggest differentiator between okay and brilliant. And that makes sense. I mean, human beings tend not to perform well when we're really scared, particularly in complex jobs. If it's a simple job, actually, a bit of panic or what have you can really help give you the adrenaline.
Packing your suitcase before you get on the plane,
Yeah, but actually, if we're looking for people to be collaborative, to be creative, fear is not a great context to do that in. We don't tend to perform well. So the second one is structure and clarity, and different people, have different needs. I'm quite a structure and clarity kind of guy, whereas some of the people I work with on my team, they're a bit more kind of free form, which is great, and you need that diversity. But the degree, it says here, the degree to which you know what's expected of you, how to do it, and what the consequences will be. What is expected of you? What do they want me to do? And do I kind of have a fighting chance of knowing how to do it, how to go about it? Possibly not scripted to an nth degree, which is a bit boring, but I kind of know what my direction of travel is. That's the second one. The third one is dependability. And this is the degree to which members can rely on colleagues to do their bit and do it well. And this is about dependability, interaction. Generally in a team, it's not individuals doing their own thing. They rely to some extent on other people. In an Erskine Nash program or workshop, there'll be at least two of us, if not three of us normally, taking turns to do different sessions. And I need to know that the person I'm working with is going to do a great job in their session and finish on time and hand over to me to then do my bit and so on. And it's great working with people you can depend on. The fourth of the five is meaning. And I think that's become increasingly important with as generations have come and gone. So I'm a cynical old Gen Xer, born in 1966, and I guess I didn't expect a lot of meaning and purpose from my work. But my sons,
and yet here you are, yeah.
Gen Alpha. I've worked with Gen Y millennials, Gen Zs, and now we're sort of looking at Gen Alphas. I think younger people, understandably, don't just want meaning, but they kind of expect it as well. So meaning is important, and feeling that the work that you do or the result that it creates has some real meaning in the world. It's doing some good. And then the fifth one is impact, and that's about the degree to which you see that what you do matters to others or to the bigger picture. So I guess purpose is it matters to you. Impact is it actually matters to others. So those are the five things that Google said differentiates between great teams and okay teams. And therefore, as leaders of teams, we need to kind of make sure that that's there and that's being provided.
And so is there a way to kind of assess this in a more formal way? I feel like I know a good team when I see it, and I know a terrible team, when I see it. How can we more formally assess it than that?
It's something we do all the time. Generally speaking, if a client asks us to work with a team over a period of time, and we've got clients who we've worked with over sort of 5 years to turn a frankly underperforming team into an award-winning team. And by the way, the best bit for us is when the chief executive of that team that gets headhunted to go and do it all over again in a bigger organisation with a bigger budget. That's even better. So one of the first things we'll do is try and get an assessment of, okay, what's the start state? How effective or ineffective is that team right now? And we then, as we work with that team over a period of time, take that measure again and again and again and reassess, partly to show a return on investment.
And make it clear what I love how all of these tools that you're discussing all feed into each other, and that your 3 circles for what should you do is there's so many analogies with these 5 things that teams do. And actually, it strikes me that taking these measurements, it's about knowing what you are trying to achieve as a team, what's expected of you to improve your performance.
And when you measure and assess the effectiveness of a team, whether you're doing it at the start of a program of improvement or through, as you go through it, I think it's really important to measure in two different ways, because the world is full of thinkers and feelers. And thinkers like me will be interested in objective measures. What's this team here to produce? How many of them is it producing? How much money is it making? How many cans of beans are coming off the line? Whatever it is. Yeah. But about half the world are feelers, and they will sense things in a completely different way. They will, as you said, when you work in a team that's really working, you just feel it. You just know it. You haven't measured anything in an objective sense. But it is important to do both. Thinkers do feel, by the way, and feelers do think. It's just a question of where you go first. So we will attempt to measure in a very objective way the outcomes that are being produced by a team. And in most organizations, hopefully that's not too difficult. They've got objectives, they've got measures. We can say, right, how much of it are you doing? How well are you doing it now? But we then engage with team members and say, how does it feel to work here? And we'll get some more subjective measures, but they're still very valuable. Because as you say, we all, even the hardest thinker, and I'm probably up that end of the spectrum, you're absolutely right. You can still feel it. You can still feel the atmosphere. And it's a question of trying to turn that into as objective a set of measures as possible and then tracking it over time. I mean, partly, from a commercial perspective, we've got to prove a return on investment. But you can do this in your own teams.
But you've got to prove that it's worth doing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So I've got a couple of questions that I'd like to ask about, like, what is feasible? So I think that, I've definitely had challenges in the past of managing teams that are doing okay. So they're not, knocking everything out the park, but they're getting the job done. And I think there's always a risk that, you pull on one thing and something else falls out, can you take those teams to great without risking losing what you've got already? And also, how long does this kind of process take? Is it, we come in, we write our objectives up on, we write these 5 points up on the board, we say, off you go, this is what you're doing. And then a month later, boom. Or is it, as I think you mentioned earlier, something where you need to spend years and years like honing and reinforcing and
So let's talk about the fear problem first. We definitely have worked with a lot of people who are team leaders in some way or other, and they feel that they need to take action, that this team needs to be improved, but they're kind of really scared to take the first step. And they're even afraid that if they do it, they'll make it worse. They'll upset people. And a big part of what we've done over the last 18 years is, particularly when we're working with leaders, when we're doing leadership development, is say, hey, you know what? This leadership thing is not as mysterious and scary as people make out. I think there's a whole industry out there who have a vested interest in making leadership look incredibly complicated. And you get people who go and buy a book and then they read it and they go, right, I think I know what I'm going to do now. I'm going to base my approach on this book. But I'll just read another book first, and then they read another book, and then they read another book. And in the end, they've got so many different ideas, because each book is, tries to be unique, and it gives you lots of different ideas. And it's bewildering. And what we try to do is lift the veil. We sort of pull the curtain back and say, you know what? I'm not saying leadership is easy. I'm not saying team leadership is easy, but you know what? It is not as complex and it is not as scary as some people make it out to be. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it pragmatic. Let's start with baby steps. And there's certain things that you can do that always deliver a great result. Keep it simple. And the way that we generally recommend is to look at three different things: clarity, alignment, and behaviour. We call it the CAB model, CAB, for obvious reasons.
Okay, yep.
And by the way, those are the three subjective things that we measure. Do you remember I said about measuring things objectively, like, what's your profit, what's your margin, how many cans of beans are coming off the line, how are you doing compared to another team that's in the same game? Get some objective measures. The subjective things we measure are clarity, alignment, and behaviour. So we'll set up a very simple system of 0 to 10 and say to people, in this team, rate this team's health in terms of clarity. And by clarity, we mean, do you think that everybody in this team has a common shared understanding of fundamentally what we're trying to achieve here? A 10 would be an almost scary cult-like thing where everybody almost just parrots the same words, and that means that a 10 isn't a great score. 0 is clearly a disaster. It's like, I didn't even know there was an objective. I thought I just turned up to work and did stuff. Most teams will say it feels like about a 7, 6, 7, 8. In that I think we're all kind of going for the same thing, but I couldn't be totally sure. And we will take some action over a period of time to try and move that score to the right. Maybe not to a 10. We're not trying to create a cult. But we'll try and move it. And we'll remeasure. We'll ask people every 6 months or so, how does it feel now? How does it feel now? One of the most interesting things is you get a team to all contribute their scores. We do it confidentially with a QR code and we collect all the data and we go...
Because of psychological safety?
Yeah, absolutely. And you get out of lives, you go, no, I think it's a 2 out of 10. And most people are like a 6 or 7. But you don't want to say, hey, Bob, why is it a 2? Because,
right.
he gave his score confidentially. But you get an average. You then say, okay, everybody write, if you've got people face-to-face, because sometimes we do this online, but if it's face-to-face, we say, okay, write down what the objective is. You gave it a score of 8 out of 10, write it down. And you collect 20 different Post-it notes, and then you ask people to read them out. And you go, sounds more like a 4. As in, people are over the place. And the problem is that a lot of leaders, and I've been guilty of this myself in the past, we think, right, all we need to do is get the team together, tell them what the objective, the mission, the target, the purpose is, and then my work here is done. We will now be at a 9 out of 10 with no further effort on my part.
We'll do it once. We'll tell everyone once.
Yeah, once a year. Put it on a slide. Maybe stick it on a poster on the wall. That would be good. And then everybody will be mega clear all year. And it turns out that ain't the way you get clarity. You need much more interaction and discussion. People need to make sense to them. They need to engage with it at a hearts and minds level. And we help leaders to do that. So that's the one thing we do. The other one is alignment. And alignment is not the same as clarity. A lot of people use the words interchangeably. But in our world, alignment is about how you and I are aligned with each other or not on the journey. So Zoe, if I said to you, let's meet on platform 5 at King's Cross Station next Friday. You've probably been to King's Cross Station.
Right, yes.
You can imagine it. Platform 5, that wouldn't be difficult to find. Next Friday, we know when that is. It's a week today. We've got really high level of clarity about the outcome, the target, the mission, the thing we're trying to achieve. But if you and I try to rush out that door behind you or this door over here at the same time, given that it's a small door and there are 2 of us, there'd be a massive amount of friction between us. We're getting in each other's way.
Yeah.
And that's what we mean by alignment. So it would be much better if you went first and then I followed you, or the other way around. And we need to align our plans and our methodology to achieve the objective. So achieving clarity is not enough. And in most organizations, most teams, it's actually the alignment that's your problem.
I can definitely see that if you're thinking about a software project that you can often all know what you're building, but actually who's building which bit when is one of the largest logistical challenges that you have in terms of so many people doing so many complex parts of one piece of software.
And it all needs to be tied together in as friction-free a way as possible. But you get friction between individuals, you get friction between sub-teams, you get friction between teams, you get friction between different organizations. And as you know, on a really big tech project, you might get multiple consultancies all doing different things for a client. And let's not even talk about the friction between the client and some of those providers. You know, we've all seen it. So alignment is really important as well. And it's often the lowest scoring element. It's the one that people go, yeah, we're pretty good on clarity, but yeah, now I know what alignment means. Yeah, Houston, we have a problem with that, if they're being honest. The third one in the CAB model clearly begins with a B, and it's behaviour. And we say to people, look, a really high score on behaviour doesn't mean everyone's happy. If you show me a happy team, and I'll show you a team that's not having honest conversations, all right? A high score in behaviour means you and I can have disagreement. It's even welcomed. That's diversity of thinking. But that when you have a view and I have an opposing view, it's welcomed. It's dealt with in an adult way. Psychological safety allows me to do that. And the way we behave with each other is respectful, and it doesn't regard conflict as scary. It regards it as a necessary, process, a necessary thing. Clearly, a low score on behaviour is everybody's throwing their teddies out of their pram and behaving really, really badly. So we will ask people to rate the health of their team a number of times in terms of clarity, in terms of alignment, and in terms of behaviour. But actually, anybody in the tech industry will know how to create a QR code, put it on a slide, ask those 3 questions, and get their teams to give those scores, and then have a discussion about maybe, well, why is this one high? Why is this one low? Can you give me an example of why you think this one is lower, and so on? And it's very revealing, and it tells you what your agenda for change is. That's the way we go about it.
All right, so we could talk about this topic all day, because I feel like we've just scratched the surface, and a lot of the time it's great to be able to map out these principles, but the detail of implementing them. And unfortunately, though, we've run out of time, so I think you're going to have to come back and tell us some more detail. Or certainly, where can people find out more about your thinking on team effectiveness?
So obviously we have a website, of course we do, and they can find that erskinenash.co.uk. And we're very open to calls and conversations and emails and whatever as well. We also post on LinkedIn, probably not as much as we should, it has to be said.
Like all of us.
But if I was going to recommend a book for people to read right now about leadership, I would go with a guy called Matt Tenney, an American guy. His latest book is called Inspire Greatness. I've met Matt working in America. He's a great guy. And the thing I like about him is he simplifies it down. Very pragmatic, very simple. And one thing he says in that book that I absolutely love is the outcome of leadership is creating engagement. That if you're struggling with the concept of leadership, and what am I trying to achieve here as a leader? Effectively, you are trying to create engagement in the hearts and minds of the people that work for you, because if they're engaged, they're happy, they're effective, they're productive. All of the frictions tend to be, the alignment problems tend to be sort of worked through. Mm-hmm. That's what leadership is all about. It's creating engagement. If you've got an engaged team, you're probably being a great leader. If you get a sense that they're not engaged, you have work to do.
Fantastic. So a word of wisdom to leave with everyone at the end there. Thank you so much, Sean, for joining me on the Digital Lighthouse and sharing your experience to help us shine a light for others. This Digital Lighthouse episode was edited by Steve Folland and produced by Patrick Anderson. The theme music was written and recorded by Ben Balow. A huge thanks to our sponsor Softwire for their continuing support from the inception of the show in 2019 to the present day. If you love the podcast, please let us know with a rating and review on your platform of choice. We're always looking for feedback to ensure that we're making the best show possible. And if you'd like to take part, please drop us a line at thedigitallighthouse@softwire.com. You've been listening to The Digital Lighthouse with me, Zoe Cunningham. Thank you for sharing your time with us, and stay safe on this wild technological ride that we're all on.